Freshly back from the Goldfields. It looked to be a magnificent afternoon up there at the KBRC yesterday. Just having a look on the social media and following the race day from afar, it seemed to be an excellent crowd, great buzz. The Cup itself was a great race, and it seems like the Goldfields were really buzzing for round week once again. What did you make of it?
Absolutely. A little bit quieter on Wednesday afternoon, and there might be changes moving forward in regards to when we have Hannon's Handicap Day, but the Cup Day itself, it was massive. The whole town had to be at that racecourse, especially when you look at the scenes, not only for the Cup, but even the two races prior. The crowd just continued to build and build and build, and I'd be shocked if the KBRC weren't absolutely wrapped with the turnout they got yesterday, because when you walked around the course, the bookies ring was packed, the bars were packed. It didn't seem like people had to line up too long for a drink. There were plenty of food vans. I think plenty of people on course yesterday would have had a fantastic day, and the racing was great as well.
Excellent. That's such good news. It's a really special race round, Lochie. You go to all of the different big race meetings around the state, but for me, growing up, my dad used to go every year for some 40-odd years with a group of mates, and I was lucky enough to go along with them for about 10 straight years, and then with a show for about another 5 or 6 years. It's a really special place. They really love their racing up there in Kalgoorlie. They embrace the history of the race week itself. Everybody takes time off to be a part of the different events that are going on, and I think it's really, really special, and it's something that we need to continue to foster and get around, because there's not many race rounds left anywhere in Australia like it.
Exactly right, and that's exactly what has occurred. It was funny, only on Wednesday night at the airport there was a group of us that were discussing what does the Kalgoorlie round need. We noticed that there were some smaller fields on Wednesday and even yesterday as well. What does it need to get a few more travelling trainers taking up big teams to Kalgoorlie for the round? And lo and behold, 3 days later, they announced a $1 million slot race in Kalgoorlie. The Golden Saddle, it is going to be a huge coup for Kalgoorlie racing. An 1,100 metre weight for age, $1 million slot race on the same day as the Cal Cup. If I thought the crowd was good yesterday, I'm scared to see what it's going to be like next year. It will be bonkers.
With $1 million up for grabs, how good is that? And hats off to everyone concerned there. That's shown some genuine initiative to be involved and try and get some of the people that have been, and I guess the people that have been real big figures in Kalgoorlie racing, tipping in again and wanting to be a part of it, because these slot races don't happen unless people buy in. But it sounds like there's so many people that are already keen to put their hand up and be a part of the big event.
Exactly right. And the other great thing about it is that, yes, there were people behind the scenes that have helped foster this new race, but the state government are putting in $500,000 each year for 3 years into the race.
Excellent.
The Premier Roger Cook was on course yesterday. He was having the time of his life from afar. He was having a bet. He was in the mounting yard. He was in the Cup celebrations with Starry Heights. It was just all happening there yesterday. The racing minister, Paul Papalia, he was having a great time. You can't help but think that can only be a good thing for racing when our politicians are enjoying race days like they were yesterday.
If they're invested, then we've got some hope, haven't we, heading forward with it all. More feedback via the Retrovision text line. I drove up to the KBRC yesterday from Norseman, and I couldn't have a bad word about it. Absolutely outstanding day. Great weather and cold beers. That's from Neville. Thank you, Neville, for that feedback this morning. We love hearing from you. If you're up there on the Goldfields, or if you had a big win yesterday, or something's tickled your fancy from the world of sport, of course, there's trade news. We've already heard from Wayne from Gero, and we'll go from there. But it is NRL Grand Final day today, and as he has done all season long, we're going to get the latest from the man in the know. It's time to catch up with James Sullivan. Oh, Sal, we catch you up there in Bali. I know when Tina starts hitting the decks, you absolutely run rampant. We thought we'd bring her out for a grand final day. How's everything going up there?
Oh, I tell you what, doesn't that get you up and about on a Sunday morning? How are you, Shorty? Hello, Lochie. How are you, mate?
Very well, Sal. How are you? You're in Bali for NRL Grand Final Day. Was that planned?
Yeah, mate, we've had a lovely week. We had a combined my 60th and my son's 21st. We had about 50 people come over from all parts of the world to join us. And, yeah, mate, we're looking forward to today. And obviously the big crescendo is tonight, obviously, with this, this afternoon for us, with this NRL Grand Final that we want.
All right.
Storm v. the Panthers.
Exactly right, Sal. Let's get into this. What a clash. It is basically the two giants of the NRL over the last 15 to 20 years clashing. This is the clash everyone wanted. How's it going to play out?
Yeah, you're right, mate. And it is what we wanted because it's been a final series dominated by these two sides. And obviously we've seen some big results. And the way I see it at the moment, it's one of those games. It's like last year, obviously, with Penrith. We know what they'll do. You know, at the end of the day, they'll stay in the fight. They come up against the Storm side that we know love a fight. So I don't think it'll be decided till late, boys. I really don't think it will be decided until it's late. And it's one of those games. I like the Storm. The bottom line is I like where they're at, the crescendo. They've rolled into the finals. They've got basically, obviously, Nelson Asafa Solomon got suspended on Monday night. But I still feel they've got the right cattle to stop this. And we all love history, don't we? But this is the 5th grand final in a row for the Penrith Panthers. And that's right, I just said 5th. Like, how's this happen? And well, Shorty, we look at the Melbourne Storm and we go, this is their 5th in 9 years. That's amazing.
It is
5 in a row?
Oh, it's crazy. And they've lost so much on the way through, so there have been plenty of players coming and going on the way through as well. That's what's amazing about it. We talked about it last week. They've managed to keep their core group. They've handpicked who they want to keep around the place. They've filled the holes around them, and they've just continued to deliver the goods. From a betting perspective, you're looking for a lead. From when betting opened up last week, Melbourne are clearly the better back to the two sides. They're now into $1.80. Panthers are out to $2.05. We had one of our customers have 80,000 on the Storm at $1.87. So they'll be in for a pretty interesting watch there this afternoon, Sul. Now let's break it down. There's a stack of different options available. First try scorer. Tab Toucher got a bunch of really cool specials on the game as well for today. Bonuses and the like on Clive Churchill betting, also first try scorer. Sal, take us through some of the novelty plays for the punters. You've been outstanding at nailing try scorers for us right throughout the course of the year. Most are expecting this to be a low-scoring game with a lot of high-quality defence on show. But both of these sides, if you let them off the chain, they can score pretty heavily quite quickly. It's going to be, I think, fascinating to see whether the defence can get a hold of this game and keep it really tight with the clamps on, or can one of these teams open the floodgates and get amongst it? How do you see things panning out, and what about either a first try scorer or some any-timers?
Yeah, it's a good point you make, Shorty. And the reason being, they've met twice this year. First game, they met in round 1. How good is that? You know, when you think about it, obviously we had the Vegas scenario, they weren't there. 8-0, round 1. And then round 24, 24-22. So this is the closeness of them. Mate, there's a bloke that he came back in we came back in 3 weeks ago. He's been here in the final series. He's about $2.10 to score any time. But Xavier Coates is the big one for me. And I'm fascinated. And Lochie, people will go, you know, at the end of the day, the aerial battle, we got that little bit of the AFL in my opinion, because what we've got the Penrith wingers, Taruva, 5'9" and 5'11", up against Warbrick and Coates, both 6'4". So all of a sudden, sometimes in rugby league you see, let's go 5 tackles, let's kick deep. I don't think the Storm will kick deep. I think they'll kick for contest. So if the listeners, in my humble, I think Warbrick and Coates will be heavily involved in the scoring. But there's a bloke, Shorty, I can't get him out of my head. That's scary, actually. A bloke called Tyron Wishart off the bench he's been the go-getter for this Melbourne Storm. He's $4 to score any time. If we have a play with the same game combo, Wishart to score, Storm to win, $6. That's a nice little play.
Beautiful. How else can we make $1 out of this NRL Grand Final? You like the Storm? Are you backing them straight out?
Yeah, I do. Mate, I'm going 1 to 12 the Storm. That's been backed in as well. Would have got 3.10 on Thursday. That's into $3 today, I noticed. And throughout the day, we got 3 games today. This is probably my play of the day, actually. Try any time. Xavier Coates in the NRL. Isabel Kelly for the Roosters in the NRLW. And in the State Challenge game, I like Sam Stone Street. $6.66. Kenny Calendar special, boys.
Excellent work.
We'll need to
from
get
you.
those bets on nice and early, Sal. The first game, when does the first game start?
10:20.
Oh, there we go.
Got a bit of time. So we've got...
Yeah, I will post them.
Yeah,
I will post
of
them
course.
up. But yeah, that's my Kenny Calendar special for the day.
Oh, you are up and about there for the big 6-0. Don't worry about that, Sal, up in Bali. So we've got Coates, Isabel Kelly and Sam Stone Street. Beautifully done for the 3-pack there.
Yeah.
Hey, so where are you, anything more?
Clive Churchill, we have to have a play, don't we?
Yes.
I think we'll go 2. Mate, he's back. He's back. We go back to 2020 when he really stamped himself into the footy. I love what I saw. Ryan Pappenhausen's at $11. If the Panthers win, I think the court jester, their little Jerome Luai, is at 15. Probably not a bad little play as well. But it's going to be great. It's, as Lochie said at the top, it's what we all want, mate. You know, you go back, they haven't met in a grand final since 2020. That was the start of the Penrith Panthers grand final appearances. Storm were good then. 4 Storm players, 8 Panthers players still running around out of that side, Shorty. That's incredible.
It certainly is. So where are you watching the big game tonight? Have you got somewhere booked for the evening?
You know what we're going to do? We're going to go to Legian Beach and just sit at... There's a little bar we found. I don't know how I found a bar, Shorty, but there's a little bar we found there, and it's got a nice big TV, and I said, mate, lock us in. So we're all going down there. There's about 30 of us going down there.
You'll have a ball tonight, Sal. Enjoy the rest of the celebrations. Pass on our best to all the revellers. Stay safe. Enjoy the big NRL Grand Final tonight. And thank you for all of your work throughout the course of the year here on The Aftermath. You've been dynamite. Looked after the punters incredibly well. Go and enjoy it tonight and continue those celebrations. Thank you, Sal.
Stay safe, boys.
There we have it. James Sullivan, he's done a wonderful job right throughout the course of the year. It sounds like Legian Beach is in trouble tonight there, Loch.
Oh, what a man he is. What a man he is. I thought he would have been in the flesh. I thought he would have been doing his best to be at the NRL Grand Final, but clearly not. He's in warmer pastures and clearly enjoying it as well.
Celebrations are on. There are plenty of celebrating overnight as well in the Premier League. Lots of goals scored overnight. Let's catch up with our man Simon Hill for all of the latest there. Good morning to you, Simon. David Shortte and Lochie Taylor with you. Welcome on this Sunday morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Very well, Simon. Good morning to you. Looking at the results last night, the teams that should have won on paper, they look like they got the job done.
Yeah, they did. Not without difficulties, one or two of them, but all the the big 3 contenders at the top that we expect to be there at the finish, they being Liverpool, Manchester City and Arsenal, all got the job done. Liverpool with the early kickoff, Diogo Jota with the only goal of the game to beat Crystal Palace, which actually sent them 4 points clear briefly. That's their 6th consecutive win in all competitions. They're starting to build very nicely under Arne Slot, but it did come at a bit of a cost. They lost their goalkeeper late on, Allison, who came off injured. Looked like a hamstring problem, so he could miss up to 4 matches, which could be a problem for Liverpool, but they're sailing along quite serenely at the moment. Palace slumping into the bottom 3, yet to win any of their opening 7 matches. Arsenal had to come from behind at the Emirates. Cameron Archer for Southampton, but the lead only lasted 3 minutes. Arsenal roared back, and this is the strength of Arsenal these days. You know, the Arsenal of old, a few years ago, might have capitulated under the pressure, but they hit back. Kai Havertz, who's been reborn in an Arsenal jersey after signing from Chelsea, scoring for the 7th home game in a row, and Gabriel Martinelli and Bukayo Saka with the 3rd goal. He assisted the first 2, by the way. He's having a great season so far. So Arsenal stay in contention. Southampton similar to Crystal Palace, still without a win, and now 20 matches without a success in the top flight, which equals a club record set in 1969. And Man City, my boys, goodness me, we were terrible last night. I mean, how we won that game, I've no idea, to be honest. But anyway, a couple of goals for Mateo Kovacic, one for Jeremy Doku with an absolute beauty from outside the box. But Fulham, who'd taken the lead, Andreas Pereira, and then got a late one through Rodrigo Muniz. Quite frankly, they should have had 5 or 6. Adama Traore missed 3 fantastic opportunities. City, not the same team without Rodri, and De Bruyne is missing as well, which is a big miss. He'll be back in a few weeks, but Rodri in particular is a conundrum that they haven't yet solved. But they keep winning, so we're still in there, fighting, still unbeaten, and now 50 home games without being beaten, which is only the 4th team in history to do that in the top flight.
Wow, Simon, I don't want to rub salt into the wounds. All is well that ends well because they saluted in the end. But what went wrong for City last night? That was the game I watched the highlights of when I woke up early this morning. And as you said, Fulham, if they take their opportunities, they take down the giant of the EPL.
Well, look, there's no secret to the fact that City like to dominate with the ball, and as an opposition, man for man, you're probably not going to be as good. Most teams are not going to be as good as City in the Premier League. So most teams, they sit back in a deep defensive block and they play with pace on the counter, which City have always been vulnerable to. What they're missing with Rodri is a guy whose positional sense and just a nose for danger gets them out of those situations on so many occasions that you could have driven a bus through our midfield at times last night when Fulham, came on the counter-attack with pace. So it's something they're going to have to resolve. They got away with it last night, but, longer term when they play the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool, that teams that are on their level, then it could bite them. And, that those matches are the ones where the titles are won and lost, really.
Indeed. We'll look forward to some of those games up against some of the bigger contests in the next little patch. Goals galore in the Brentford Wolves game, Simon. 5-3. The Bees went nuts up front with 5 for the game. And the Hammers also had a day out in front of the onion bag, winning 4-1 over Ipswich.
Yeah, the Brentford Wolves game was absolutely chaotic. 6 goals in the first half, and Brentford scoring early for the 4th game in a row. Nathan Collins, after just 75 seconds. They've done this on the 3 previous occasions and only taken 1 point. But this time they managed to get the win, even though their lead only lasted 2 minutes. Mateus Cunha making it 1-1. Then Brian and Burmo from the spot, 2-1. Jorgen Strand-Larsen making it 2-2 almost immediately. And when Christian Norgard put Brentford in front at 3-2, there was only 28 minutes on the clock. But I think it was the goal in first half stoppage time from Ethan Pinnock sort of settled things down a bit. Fabio Carvalho in the 90th minute, and then Ryan Ait-Nouri rounding out the scoring in stoppage time. But Brentford, perhaps a little bit fortunate this time that they're coming up against a Wolves team that are, quite frankly, are all at sea defensively. It's their worst start in 60 years. They've conceded 21 goals in 7 games. And by way of comparison, those are similar numbers to what Sheffield United posted last year. And they went down, by many, many points. So the pressure is really on Gary O'Neill. I'm seeing already the speculation that he might get the sack this week. That's the way it goes in football in England, I'm afraid. West Ham, first home win of the season. They got an early goal as well, Michael Antonio. But Ipswich have got good character. Liam Delap equalised, and they then missed a host of chances to go in front. Mohamed Kudus, and then Jared Bowen and Lucas Paqueta giving the scoreline a more comfortable look. So a bit of relief for West Ham because they've had a very up and down start, and I think the pressure again after spending a lot of money was starting to build a little bit on Julian Lopetegui. Ipswich are one of those teams that are yet to win this season. They're newly promoted, of course, so they're finding their way, but they make far too many defensive errors, and if they don't eradicate those, then they're going to find themselves back in the Championship quick smart.
What are you looking forward to most about tonight's game, Simon?
Well, the Aston Villa Man United game is, potentially very mouth-watering. I'll say that as a City fan. I think the pressure is massively on Erik ten Hag again. I mean, last week they got absolutely belted by Tottenham, probably the worst performance of ten Hag's tenure so far. And, let's be honest, that's up against some pretty stiff competition. They managed to get a last-gasp draw against Porto in the Europa League during the week. But this is a tough fixture for Manchester United. Villa are going well. They're putting pressure on the top four again. They beat Bayern Munich on their return to the Champions League this week. So, if United lose this again, they're already, I think, one of their worst starts in decades. That pressure is going to build on Ten Hag again. So that's a fascinating contest. I do fancy United might get something today. Villa have not got a good record at home against United. Won only one of the last 25, which, strangely enough, was Unai Emery's first game in charge back in 2022. But as I say, tough game for United. I'm backing them, though, that they might get at least a point.
All right, so just quickly, Simon, I'll talk you through the markets for these last three games. It's Aston Villa 2.18, draw 3.80, Man United $3, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea 1.49, the draw 4.50, Nottingham Forest 6.40, and the final game Brighton 2.95. The draw $4, Tottenham 2.16. That $3.80, the draw in the Aston Villa Man United game, enticing?
Yeah, I think that's worth a punt, to be honest. Given that United have to get something from that game, really, 7 points from 6 matches is not good enough. They've got to be focused against Villa, who've got two terrific attackers in Ollie Watkins and John Duran. But I think they can get a point there. I can't offer you any value in the Chelsea Forest game, to be honest. I think Chelsea will be too good. They're flying at the moment. Cole Palmer in particular. And Enzo Maresca, their new coach, has left him out of their Conference League squad as well, quite controversially. But I think that's to give him a bit of a rest because he's so important for them in the Premier League. I think Chelsea will win that one, particularly with the game being at Stamford Bridge. The Brighton Spurs game is interesting. Brighton are not having the best of seasons, but they're always pretty strong at home. Tottenham can be a bit hot and cold. They've had a good week, one at Manchester United. And then away to Ferencvaros in Europe as well during the week. But still no Son Heung-min or likely to remain on the sidelines. So it might be worth a bit of a punt for a draw in that one.
All right, so $4 the draw in that particular game certainly is nice and juicy. Roll the three together, 22.65, and I can say Simon's been seeing them particularly nicely over the last few weeks. So let's stick with him. If you've been with him, you're a million miles in front on what he's been producing for us in recent weeks. Simon, the A-League a couple of weeks away from kicking off. We'll have a really good look at that with you over the next fortnight in the countdown to the season getting underway, particularly our Perth Glory across here in the West. Thanks as always for your time this morning here on The Aftermath. Have a ripper Sunday.
Pleasure, guys. Have a great week. See ya.
Simon Hill joining us with all of the round ball action. We're off to a break. When we return, we'll be talking all things racing. Chris Nelson to have a look at the big day of racing from Randwick, and Racetrack Ralphy will recap a big day of racing there at
Racing and sport from different angles. You are listening to The Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Well, it's now 22 minutes away from 7 o'clock. David Shortte and Lochie Taylor with you on The Aftermath this morning. We'd love to hear from you. Send through your feedback to the Retrovision text line 0427 789 571. It is, though, time now to recap a wonderful day of racing across there at Randwick. Chris Nelson, our man with all of the latest. Good morning, Chriso.
Good morning, Shorty. Good morning, Lochie.
Good morning, Chris. Massive day of racing on the East Coast. Let's get stuck into reviewing some of these races out of Randwick firstly. In the fourth, they went hard in the first half of the race, but it was Swift Falcon finishing over the top of them.
Yeah, you're spot on, Lochie, and that made the race for Swift Falcon. I mean, first, Depth of Character was first in the run. Johnny the Kid was second in the run. China Sea was third in the run, and they ran bottom four. So that tells you how quickly they went here, and Swift Falcon just sat back last. And look, that had been the pattern at his wins. He'd been getting back in the field. He won it in Victoria the start before and ran on down the outside there at 1,400 metres at Flemington. And then he gets to 1,600 metres here. So that tempo and what he did with the tempo aiding him suggests that he's going to get out a lot further than this. So I'd say 2,000 next start would be a nice race for him, maybe a spring champion, something along those lines. But, yep, all honours with the winner, but I'd need to see him out over further next time.
And it's fair to say Just Party was certainly a forgiver,
Yep.
still looking for a run.
Yeah, I don't think it would have won, Shorty. I looked at that replay again this morning, and yes, definitely held up, definitely should have finished closer. But when Just Party did get out, pretty much just held ground, I thought, to the line. So, yeah, a bit of a inconclusive run there, you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it was in the very best bit of the track, but I'm with you. Happy enough. Swift Falcon had the swoop and was far too good. On to race number 6 on the program. This was the Group 1 Darley Flight Stakes over the mile, and very nice performance from Lady Shenandoah. Zach Lloyd aboard defeated Harlem Queen and Snow in May.
Yeah, Group 1, second Group 1 for Zach Lloyd, and gee, she was so impressive. And look, we saw her in the winter up here in Queensland, and she was good then. I think a lot of us thought she'd be a stakes grade horse in the spring. I was with her first up, but I jumped ship yesterday and went with Snow in May, and I'm still kicking myself. And she was absolutely bolting coming around the turn and into the straight. And once Zach Lloyd let her go, I mean, that was the end of it. They didn't dawdle. They dashed home as well. The overall time was quite strong. Harlem Queen ran on late. Snow in May was okay. Missed the start. Didn't probably help her chances there. Powers of Opal led, which none of us really expected. So I'm not sure if we'd sort of put the pen through that performance. I still think that filly goes okay. But probably no guineas or 1,000 guineas for our Lady Shenandoah. Maybe go for a break and come back in the autumn. We're not sure there. But the funny thing is that horse, Lady Shenandoah, 2 losses in the winter, earlier part of the year, were behind a horse called Clean Energy, who also looks very promising, but we haven't seen all spring, no trials, and I've checked the Racing Australia site. It says she's spelling. So whenever we see Clean Energy step out, we need to get on.
Chris, this is the race I really want to talk about, the ramifications this race has for the Everest in a couple of weeks' time, the Premier Stakes, but it was Airman taking it out at a very nice price.
Yeah, and look, they didn't go hard. That was the issue in the race. The tempo just was not there. This was a full-on sprint home, and that didn't suit the likes of Think About It, who was taken back through the field from the wide gate and settled last, was never, ever going to get into the race. Airman had the gun run on the fence, probably should have won and did. Marzu was sitting second, ran second. Bella Nipotina was the best run in the race, clearly. I mean, she didn't get much of a crack at them until around the 200-metre mark or inside the 200-metre mark. She ran on strongly against that tempo and almost arrived on the line. Giga Kick, well, I had him at the top of the rankings this week, guys, but I don't think he's going to be there come Tuesday. He was flat, wasn't he? He was just flat. He made like ground, but the thing about this Everest this year, I just said it to someone yesterday, you just don't know how much improvement is going to come out of these horses on the big day. I mean, Giga Kick could just improve out of sight. I don't know, but on what we've seen, you'd have to have Bella Nipotina ahead of Giga Kick now. So
would she be the number one on Tuesday morning when you update those rankings?
Oh, jeez. It's getting very tough, Lochie. I mean, I've sort of I didn't bag I wish I would win last week, but I just was a little bit disappointed in one little factor. So I probably can't put him on top. I might be looking further down the list now. I don't really know.
A 3-year-old, perhaps?
End up back with Jolie Star.
Yeah, exactly.
A 3-year-old batch. They got no weight in the race. Sunshine in Paris. I don't know.
What it does do, it opens up the intrigue. It's going to be a wonderful race. And it's sometimes it's nice to not have a standout. Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to keep it a little bit mysterious for the punters, not to the point where we're seeing $41 winners like Airman low up and blow us out of the quaddie first leg. But, hey, well done to anybody that had it in there yesterday. Your thoughts on Think About It there yesterday, Chris?
Yeah, well, it had no chance. Absolutely no chance the way the race was run. So I'd say getting into the Everest is probably going to be a hard thing at the moment for Think About It. Last year's winner may miss out on a run. So inconclusive completely because it was just a dead set sprint home. Indeed.
Let's move on to the Group 1 Metrop. Holy moly, what a race this proved to be. There is nothing in racing like when two horses just go toe-to-toe and slug it out, eyeball to eyeball over the last 300 metres of a race, and that's exactly what we saw yesterday with Land Legend and Zardozi. Zardozi improving sharply off her first 3 runs of the preparation, and Land Legend recapturing some excellent form there yesterday with Reece Jones aboard. It was literally hammer and tongs, chips in this duo over the last part of the race, Chris, and it just got down to a bob of the heads. And in the end, it was Reece Jones. It was able to get Land Legends head down right at the perfect moment. Zardozi beating an eyelash. Then we were back to Unusual Legacy and Trust in You. And then, as if there wasn't already enough excitement, we had to go to the steward's room to get it confirmed with a protest second v first alleged at the 400 metres.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of people out there that suggest that protest should have been upheld. Personally, I think that, there was interference there, no doubt about it. But when you've got the whole straight to win the race and you don't, I would say it probably has to be dismissed. Had it finished, or had that interference been closer to the line, maybe. But, wow, as you say, Shorty, what a stirring finish it was. And look, full credit to your colleague there, Marty Young, who did tell us a couple of weeks ago that Land Legend was well on the way to winning this race, or a big race at least, and he got it right. So he was probably sweating all the way down the straight yesterday, Marty, but well done to him, that's for sure.
I was in contact, Chris, and I can tell you when the news came through of the protest, he was not a happy camper, but all's well that ends well. But you're right, he did identify this horse. He was all over it, and I know for a fact that once the all clear was given from the stewards, he was pretty happy with the way things turned out.
Chris, moving.
And so he should have been.
Chris, moving on to the Epsom Handicap, a time-honoured race over the mile. Have we seen a more dominant winner? The way Chad Schofield was just able to get this horse out into clear air at the top of the straight. Wow, he found the line well.
He did. He was very strong to the line. And once again, similar to Swift Falcon earlier, the tempo made this race. They did run along. So I had my doubts. I thought dropping back in distance to the mile was going to be a problem. Look, it may have been if they had gone slower, but the way the race was run, he was well suited and he was able to get to the outside and storm home over the top of them. So all credit to Joe Pride's done a terrific job. I think he's won 4 big Randwick miles now, Joe Pride, so he certainly knows how to get the best of them on those big days. Tom Kitten was wide all the way. Gee, he was a good run. I know he cops his fair share of abuse, Tom Kitten, but gee, he was a very good run. Royal Patronage was wide early, didn't get across outside the lead until about the 1150. Did a really good job to hold down third. Now, I found one very, very late here, guys. I'm going to put in the black book. Firestorm ran officially 11th. Have a look at the replay. Little number 19 making late ground last 100 metres. He was back in distance from restricted races. He's run a good race. Back up in distance next time out, something easier. Jump onto Firestorm. But all honours with J. Wolf.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a believer in this horse. I've liked it all. Prep back 400 from the 2000 of the mile there yesterday. And Tommy Kitten, he's a much more likeable character since the operation, Tom. There's no doubt about that. Race number 10, the lucky last. Jason Collett aboard Ostraka. Pretty popular with the punters. Defeated Moravia, and Port Lochroy was a nice performance at odds. What do we take out of the last, Chris?
Well, they didn't go hard at all. So the on-pacers had this, and Ostraka was just parked behind the leader, Elson Boy. So got the gap at about the 200-metre mark off heels and was too strong. But, gee, there were a couple of really good runs in the race. And you said that, or you mentioned Port Lochroy, Shorty. That was a ripper, closed off really hard, had a good winter in Brisbane. Briasa must have sat 4 and 5 wide the entire trip and was beaten 0.5 a length. Great run. And Infancy was an eye-catcher late, ran 5th. Have a look at it finding the line. So a few to follow out of that final race.
Chris, what are we following out of the Doomben meeting?
Just one. There's pretty ho-hum meeting at Doomben. A lot of the favourites won, which we expected. Navy on the Highway out of race 8. Very promising. 3 wins, 4 starts, sat wide, still got the job done really well. So we'll keep following Navy on the Highway.
Like it. And just finally, Black Bookers from Ram. We've got Firestorm. What else are we throwing into the book?
We'll throw in Swift Falcon over further from race 4. Stella Nipotina, who may end up back on top of the rankings Tuesday. Firestorm you mentioned, and Briasa and Port Lochroy and Infancy out of that last race.
All right, could be a good form race, that last one. Chris, anything for a punt today?
Townsville today, Shorty. We'll just give you the one. Race 4, number 3, Missile Thunder. Very well placed, very well weighted, should be winning.
All right, race 4, number 3, Missile Thunder, if you're looking to have a punt today there at Townsville. Beautifully done, Chris.
Thanks, guys. Have a great Sunday and a great week.
There we have it. Chris Nelson with the latest on a big day of racing there at Randwick and one from Doomben. We're going to have a quick break. When we return, having a look at the Flemington program with Racetrack Ralphy.
Racing and sport from different angles. You are listening to The Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Well, it's 8 minutes away from 7 o'clock. Time to catch up with our man Racetrack Ralphy to look at this Flemington program from yesterday. Head to racetrackralphy.com.au for all of Ralphy's fine work. Welcome to you, Ralphy. Excellent day of racing there yesterday at Flemington. Have you been dodging the lightning? It's been everywhere over there.
Oh, there's a bit of everything, wasn't it? My daughter was at the show next door. She had a lot of fun. Look, unfortunately, it's and this is, of course, no one's fault, but with that rain, I think we had a lot of uncertain racing. So you guys know I'm not a fence sitter, but when we go through them, there's a fair bit of uncertainty. I don't think it gave us much clarity going forward, assuming we will get better weather going forward. But let's get in on.
Morning, Ralphie. We start with the first. It was a bunched finish, but Warney got the bob when it mattered most.
Oh, I loved him as the legend player, but Zabella and Sheelight would have been better for me, Lochie, I was going to say. But look, four-way bob of the head here, pretty competitive racing. But having said that, look, it was a benchmark 78, but I think that the four here and the finish have all got a bit of upside. Warney, just another import that wins at good odds first up. Zabella had real sharp SA data. Sheelight now gelded, came through that bog-heavy track at its previous run, so it's going to be a racehorse now. And maybe Dick, you can forgive it. It was a silly price, but it's got to have wins in store for it as well. So even though it was a four-way finish, I think these have got some upside. All
righty, on to race number 2 for the 2-year-olds, the Maribyrnong Trial Stakes over the 1,000 metres. We're learning all the time with these youngsters. It was Tremonti defeating Shining Smile and Price Tag.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, the biggest learning was that Damien Lane got time for early check, so I don't tend to play these 2-year-old races, and unfortunately with him getting 10 meetings, that's not going to help us because we like following him at this time of year. Once again, the horse hard up against the fence in a 2-year-old race up the straight was able to kick back and win. Bought our spot. That's the way they like him, nice and fit, and they got the money.
Keeneland took out the Superimpose and looks like a potential Derby type.
Yeah, I would think these are the B graders, and we might even bracket the next one as well as far as the Derby and Oaks. It went forward. It was tough. It had a bit of grounding about it. I think Red Aces has switched back on now, which I'm sure Nick Ryan will be delighted with that. Over 1,800 metres, it won its previous run at 1,800, but I think they got to dodge the classier runners, and same with the Manifold with 2 down the street, who came from a real fast Sandown race, and I think that was the difference in the finish. Had that real fitness edge.
And the runner-up in that race, Declici Boulevard, she's just got to learn some racing manners. She keeps over-racing and costing herself petrol tickets within the run.
Yeah, spot on, absolutely.
All right, on to race number 5. It was the Group 2 Danehill Stakes. First settler, Mickey D aboard, defeated Reserve Bank and Enriched.
Yeah, I was quite keen leading into the day on Bodyguard, but it was pretty friendless in the betting and ran accordingly. Now, whether that was the wet track or didn't travel or whatever, I don't know. But it brought a real sharp trial down from Sydney. When it comes to the Price Kent team, no surprise then that they were in the finish and deep in the finish. We put a big stamp on First Settler after that second of Growing Empire, and obviously since then Growing Empire franked the form with that super run in the Manicato and Reserve Bank. What it's shown is real closing speed off soft tempo races. This was off a bit more of a pressure situation. So again, I think they're both going to run well in the Cornwall. But at this stage, if you ask me if I wanted to take on these horses with the likes of that Golden Rose form, I'd prefer the Sydney form at this stage.
Ralphie, I suspect the data on Uncle Bryn didn't read too well leading into the Paris Lane Stakes, but it might read well after.
Well, look, this is the thing about what's the phrase, everything's got a price, because this horse did have talent. It was just, it was obviously poor first up, and I did hear Natalie Young give it a bit of a push, saying that she expected a big improved run. And the reality was it was a Cranbourne Cup winner. It won last spring, that naturalism, and as was pointed out when they crossed the line, it ran the Turnbull last year. But did we expect an elevation like that? No, of course not, but it won well. I think Plenty of Ammo is the one with the real upside here, because we know it had real talent, and they chose to run it here. Well, not a lot of money for it, so it's run so well. This is a horse to follow now that they've got this right again. So I think on a tough meeting for horses to follow, Plenty of Ammo is one of them. All
right, yeah, I enjoy my family, but Uncle Bryn's not invited to the next family picnic after getting up at those prices, Ralphie. Race number 7, first leg of the quaddie, Just Fine. This was a daring ride from Jordan Childs. Rolled to the top, said, catch me if you can. They tried, but just missed.
Yeah, absolutely. You find me a better ride, you can't, and that was the difference between winning and losing. I think, having said that, look, I think the Just Fine of last spring wins this by 5 lengths. And that's a concern, that he just didn't go on with it, but it was such a beautifully well-timed ride that it just fell in. I think Point King's going to run really well in the Melbourne Cup, and the rest are a bit of a bracket, and by then the track had sort of copped a fair bit of rain. So, unfortunately, we're going to sit on the fence a bit.
The Turnbull was the big Group 1 yesterday, Ralphie, and how good was it to see Damien Lane and Joe Moreira go head-to-head in the concluding stages?
Yeah, the Magic Man and Joe Moreira, eh?
Beautiful work.
Yeah, these are real horses, aren't they? And Buckaroo's just in the zone. Did Chris Waller say he's thinking of the Caulfield Cup? Has it got not going to run super there? And maybe Duke DeSassa will as well, who gave a good sight. Elias definitely will. So it's a really strong race. I think Atishu's going to now ready. They needed that run. And Via Sistina, I don't know how she's not going to run a super race in the Cox Plate, but of course there's going to be some different form with the Japanese horse and broadsiding as well. So it sets it up beautifully. All
right, one for the Beastie Boy fans. Right to party, getting the job done with Jai McNeil in race number 9 over Arkansas Kid and Stretton Angel.
Yeah, I nearly had the head wobble there with taking on the horse with the big weight. Arkansas Kid, extra 5.5 kilos, gets nutted a nose, but that's all right. Straight form's always real form, isn't it? I would say Magic Time, one of the real horses to follow out of this. Not a lot of money for it. Wasn't friendless by any chance, but that was the perfect run to really elevate next start. So Magic Time's one we're going to black book from the meeting. And Ripcord, can't wait to see it on a dry track.
And out to 1,400 metres next start in a couple of weeks' time, Ralphie. Look forward to him. And in the last, Revolutionary Miss, Kieran Maher does what he does best.
Yeah, we put a big black book stamp on it, but we also did with Skybird and Miss Ari as well. So this was proper form. They were all in the finish, and they ran to expectations there. So I think Skybird at a mile would be absolutely perfect. It looks like they've got it set for the Empire Rose, and I think she's going to run a bold race. So the two to follow on a tough meeting to find horses to follow. I think Plenty of Ammo and Magic Time with a fair bit of confidence too.
I like it. Plenty of Ammo and Magic Time. Ralphie, just a quick one, 15 seconds. One of our listeners wants to know how long should they follow the Black Bookers for after they hear from you here on this show?
Next start for both of those.
Next start. Love it. Good on you, Ralphie. RacetrackRalphy.com.au for the latest.
Good on you, boys.
Racing and sport from different angles. You are listening to The Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Where it is now 7 minutes after 7. David Shortte and Lochie Taylor with you this morning here on The Aftermath. And we've got a big hour upcoming. We'll be catching up with Brad Hardie for all the latest in sport shortly. Then the last half hour is busy, and it's busy with winners. We've got Stuart McDonald, of course, fresh off success at Gloucester Park on a Friday night in the big Group 1 there. Joe Pride will join us. We mentioned how impressed we were with Cholwolf there yesterday. We'll find out how the horses pulled up this morning and what Joe's got in store heading forward. And Paul Stuart overnight, West Australian greyhound Bezecchi went around at Wentworth Park in a $1 million chase qualifier. Needed to run well to get through to next week's semi-finals to chase the $1 million prize check, and it went 29.13, which is the second fastest time ever at Wentworth Park, won by about 15.
On The Aftermath, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club, Brad Hardie. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Good morning to you, Brad Hardie. Welcome along to The Aftermath on this Sunday morning. How do we find you?
Good morning, Lochie. Good morning to Liberace playing the Ivories there, Sophie. And good morning, Shorty, coming to you from Yarrawonga, Marwala this morning. Just looking out there, Shorty, at my private Gilligan's Island and a couple of ducks floating past. And, not far from the Marwala Ski Club. Readying ourselves for the big NRL Grand Final tonight, Lochie. Let's hope we get a better game than we got from our own last weekend.
Exactly right. Let's touch on that AFL Grand Final before we talk about the NRL Grand Final. What's been the wash-up over the last 7 days, Brad?
Oh, look, it's been absolutely magnanimous from Brisbane, I reckon, boys, because of the fact that every time someone wins a flag, Shorty, and it started not so long ago, we had 2021 with Melbourne, dynasty, 2022 Geelong, further dynasty, Collingwood last year, dynasty. It didn't happen. But they've been magnanimous, Lochie, in the way they've gone about it. They've celebrated hard. They've celebrated with humility. They really understand that they've got more to come. There's no doubt. If you look at their profile, Shorty, with the youth that they've got in the team, obviously they've lost Joe Danaher, which is a difficult one for him because he's been a big game player. Let's face it, probably would have won the Norm Smith medal last year, boys, had Brisbane just got over the line. So, yeah, look, and they've got young Levi Ashcroft coming in next year, unbelievable father and son. I just caught the tail end of Lisa's text message, but yeah, I assume you were talking about that, Shorty. But yeah, no, they've been terrific. The Swans, on the other hand, they've been a bit of a car crash because people have been waiting for a knee-jerk reaction. The only question someone didn't ask Tom Harley was, are you going to sack John Longmire? Well, no, they're not. And they're going to stick fat. He's got that pit in his stomach where he wants to get back there next year, boys. And, you know, they're still, again, talking about the profile of the Lions. Well, the profile of the Swans is pretty good as well. They say, oh, you need another big midfielder. Well, Callum Mills comes in next year, Shorty, and fills that void, so that's good. The only thing I would test, and I'm not being malicious or mischievous, boys, maybe they look to move an Amati or a Logan McDonald on. Keep one or the other. I'd keep Logan and I'd move Amati on. And I reckon there'd be takers for him and see if they can't get into the marketplace for another season sort of really good, fast-running midfielder / forward. Because Brisbane will chase Amati because they're looking for a replacement for him. So. For Danaher. So, yeah, that's what I'd be thinking. But, yeah, certainly the only redemption for them boys, unfortunately, next year, boys, the pass mark is win the grand final.
Exactly right, Brad. Is that just Sydney's weakest link when you consider Amati, McDonald and McLean are sometimes all up front? They're all nearly 200 centimetres, and once the ball hits the deck, they're just useless.
Well, it's an optical illusion, I know, because it's not that much smaller, but it's an odd shape, isn't it, Shorty, the SCG? They can protect that really well, as clubs like the Bulldogs and that can protect Marvel really well, you know? But then when you stretch them out onto the MCG, and again, outdoors, naturally, from Marvel, but the SCG, they just found trouble. The Lions were so good last week, Lochie, in making the MCG as wide as they possibly could and as long as they possibly could. And there just wasn't... Look, I'm the biggest fan of John Longmire, don't get me wrong. But I couldn't understand why he didn't revert to man-on-man far earlier than he did, you know. And I thought that's normally his in-the-run sort of go. It's like a jockey, take the right option. Well, here's the right option. You're on the back foot here. They're kicking straight. They kick 5 in a row. Mate, you've got to do something, you know. And it didn't come, and no change-up really until the last quarter, and they got some junk time goals, Parker kicked 3, etc., and, you know, gave some sort of small respectability to the scoreboard. So, yeah, they've got a bit of work to do there, and they've just got to make sure. Their forward line at the start of the year, Shorty, we were marvelling at them, weren't we? Because they were kicking about 50 or 60 goals, and the midfield was kicking about 30. So that's why they're winning so many games. That's why they won 13 of their first 14 games. That's certainly dried up in the back end of the year.
Yeah, it did indeed. Luke Parker's on the way to North Melbourne. He's been a wonderful footballer for Sydney for a really significant period of time. He is, though, getting towards the back end of his career. He was left out of the Swans side earlier on in the season for a number of games. He, of course, was then rubbed out for a period. It's been one of those seasons. He kicked 3 goals late in that grand final. I love what Luke Parker's brought to the table as a footballer for a really long period of time, and I think he's probably one of North Melbourne's better signings for quite a while, to be honest. While he's towards the end of his career, he brings professionalism, he brings a hard edge that they probably haven't got within their playing group at the moment. He'll set a great example for the younger players on that list. He's the sort of player at the back end of his career that you'd be more than happy to have walk into your football club, particularly a club that's been struggling like the Kangas.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, Shorty. And look, it gets back to winning the ball at the source, whatever they want to call it. You know, his first ball get, ground ball get. He can become back that player that he was at Sydney. He was sort of squeezed out a little bit, as we know, you know, with Mills, Heaney, Goulden, Warner, etc. He wasn't quite in there, but he can get back in there, and he'll certainly complement Sheasel and co, Wardlaw. You're right, Shorty, and he's he's not a breakaway player anymore. He never has been, but he can roll forward too, which is good, where he might be able to take a mark and kick a goal. So, that's one of the better ones that they've got. They've gone for the Luke Hodge, Sam Mitchell, Jordan Lewis, Luke Hodge type style. But, you know, and that's one that I think will work. But North Melbourne don't want to get caught up in getting too many of them, if you know what I'm saying, because, they've got a nice little green shoots there with those young blokes. They've just got to try and get a little bit more in the middle part of their list, which is going to amplify them and get them going, get them out of the bottom 4 into somewhere between 8th and 14th.
Brad, where are we at with some more of the trade news in regards to our local teams here in the West, the likes of Baker, Bolton, Graham? What's the latest?
Oh, look, I don't think there's any doubt that it'll get done with Bolton down to Freo. I think Fremantle, young Walls has got the idea. He gets it, and you've got to give up something to get something. You can't give up clay to get, to get something gold, So they know they've got to give up. It's just what 2 picks they're going to have to give up. I think he's worth it. I know people are saying, is he worth it? Yeah, he is worth it. He's a game changer. There's not too many out there, is there? I mean, when you think about it, he was sort of just off his tucker a bit, I think, with Richmond. I think he'd done his time. Dusty was off the ball, etc. A lot of the older players getting injured or retiring or leaving or whatever. So I think getting into that young, virile Fremantle midfield, play a high half forward, kick you somewhere between 40 and 50 goals, provide that breakaway speed which Fremantle don't have in the midfield, which is good. Sarong, handball to Bolton. Sarong, handball to Bolton. Brayshaw, handball to Bolton. Because he's a great field kick. He's a very good field kicker. He's a very good goal kicker. That's what they have to marry up, and that's what they need to do. So that'll get done. Look, I think Barras will probably get West Coast somewhere around 13 or 14, Shorty, I think, depending on which ones get pushed back. The other day, we'll talk about that in a minute with the overcompensation for St Kilda for Battle. Dearie me. You get to a stage where, that will get the job done for Barras to get to Hawthorn, and then that pick will come back to West Coast, and then that pick will go to Richmond, I reckon, for Baker. I think that's about right. Baker's another one who can bring something to the table. He knows what McQualter wants, Lochie, and so does Jack Graham, and that's why they went and got him. They're getting Jack Graham for a free hit. He cost them nothing. But they both know what McQualter, they played under him only for 13 games, but they'll have a really good idea of what he's trying to do. And the best thing that he said at his press conference, because West Coast was shocking, as we know, one of about 10 or 11 games out of their last 95,000. They have to change, and he's obviously. But I don't want him to see him, Shorty, say, we'll play a little bit like Richmond, a bit like. No, I want to play like McQualter. I want to know what McQualter's game style is, because we've seen it with Sam Mitchell, boys, where he's middling in his third year and extended for another couple. I want to see difference, a point of difference. It's no good doing what everybody else has been doing, for the past 5 years, because you're only playing catch-up footy. I want to see something new. But what I want to do is keep the ball for the West Coast free, moving forward, giving your forwards opportunity with like Oscar Allen and Waterman, who had a stellar year. That would be the way I'd be looking at it.
Brad, before we touch upon the compensation debacle with Josh Battle, just on Bolton again with Freo, how do they fit the likes of Bolton, O'Meara, Fife and then Walters all in the same team? Because over the last few years, the productivity of those 3 older players have just been on the decline, just consistently. And Shorty, you can touch upon this as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think this year, if Freo get the players that they're looking for and Bolton comes into the mix, I think guys like O'Meara and Sonny Walters will be depth players. They'll be depth players. They'll be there if you need them and the injuries come in. But I think they would probably both, by their own admission, understand they're at the back end of their time, Lochie. But you're right, there's only so much room for them, Brad. And as much as it can be an awkward conversation with guys that have been good for your football club, I think both of those guys would be pretty aware that they're unlikely to be in the first 22 picked if everyone's fit and well.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more on that, Shorty. Unfortunately, that's what you want. You want people pushing other players to the limit, if not out of the team. And that's not being, again, malicious or nasty. That's just fact. If you're going to improve, you've got to have players coming through who are going to be better than the ones you've already got. I'm staggered that they kept Brody. And I think he's been wasted. I think he can find the ball. He doesn't have leg speed. We know that. So that's what they've got to get into their midfield. So he's not going to fit the bill there. So he's probably missed the boat. I think Jack McRae's beat him to perhaps St Kilda, where he might have been settled there. Geelong are probably going to miss out on, we think he's going to miss out on Oliver. So I'm not saying he's in that class, but he can find the footy and bring others into the game. That's what I'm saying. That's what he did for Fremantle, didn't he, Shorty? He was the bloke in and under. But once they sort of got Sarong, Brayshaw, Hayden Young, Ace was going a lot better at that stage, etc. There was a few coming through there. he got squeezed out, and I'm surprised that they stayed him on. I think that the young man is not getting any younger, mind you, but he needed to find somewhere else to go, I would have thought.
Well, he's the best paid waffle player for a while. They signed him on a 3-year deal after that first year where he was playing most games. Brad, they paid really good money to lock him up, and since then he's barely been in the senior side, and he's got plenty of the football at that lower level. I think though, off what we've seen, Erasmus certainly has leapfrogged him off what we saw there in the Waffle Grand Final. There's a lot of chat about him and where he might fit into the Freo side heading forward. And Will Brodie, I was staggered that there was no move potentially by his management to try and find a club that is more likely to need a midfielder and actually get him a game. I'd prefer to be playing at least every second week in the AFL for a struggling club rather than sit around and hope that there's multiple injuries to push into this Freo side.
Look, I again, not wanting to be vindictive or nasty, but clearly his management may have looked and maybe nobody there. So you're better off staying where you are.
Sure.
Cop the super, and at least come out the other end, with something to show for it. And that's the problem. I mean, people are not looking for, pardon the pun, slow midfielders. They're looking for blokes who can break away, speed, ground ball gets, first link of the chain, second link of the chain, and can do damage. And, that's why I say, I mean, no disrespect. I mean, Sarong back-to-back Doig medals, terrific. Ray Shaw second. The best player by far they've got is Aidan Young. I mean, he's just gone ahead of all of them because his ability to come off that half-back flank. It reminds me of Callum Mills, who was sitting on a half-back flank there at Sydney for quite some time and just doing what he did. Great field kicker. And they said, no, Callum, time for you and Isaac to come up from the half-forward line, you to come off the half-back line. You've got to go in the middle now. And that's where I see Hayden Young growing. And this year, towards the end of the season, he really started to show. They didn't get the high 20s, early 30s, Lochie, but he was kicking goals off his own boot. Give him the early mid-20s and 2 goals every day of the week, and that's the sort of player I want.
Exactly right. Okay, Brad, let's open up the can of worms. Compensation, Josh Battle, pick 8. Take it away.
I just can't believe this. This is AFL gone mad. I mean, I know Gil McLaughlin barracked for St Kilda, but obviously maybe Andrew Dillon does. I mean, who decided this? I mean, you go back. Let's go back. I'm going back to 2013-14 now, Shorty. There's some bloke who went all right, played okay, playing the premiership side, kicked over 1,000 goals, a bloke called Buddy Franklin, and they got picked 19, and here you got Josh Battle, who is a steady player, no doubt, 26 years of age. It's just blowing my... I'm a dinosaur, Lochie. I'm first to admit it. I just cannot understand this money that's going and being put into it. We have grassroots footy, waffle, sandful, crying out, can't get $1 out of the AFL, and these blokes who are just handy footballers get $950,000 a year. Like, seriously, and they get pick 8. Pick 8. I mean, that's dead set.
Remarkable.
How would you like your silver service? With a butler or not? Fair income.
Bradley,
I couldn't believe it.
You're always going about the secret herbs and spices. The Colonel would be absolutely turning in his grave if he found out what they've done to his secret recipe here. This has been remarkable. I think it's, as you touched on, 19 for Buddy Franklin and 8 here. What it does do, though, it knocks on. It knocks on to the other clubs that have got picks, and that was a point that Lisa was making. And the father-son setup as well comes into play there to knock everyone down the line. The father-son one's been talked about a lot this week, and St Kilda in particular, their president. Oh, my goodness. If you're a Saints fan, I feel for you. The way that things have come out there, they just look like a bunch of absolute moaners and whingers when that's coming from your top dog's mouth at your big awards night. How about put that to the side and let's get some positive stuff on the table about where we're going as a football club and how we're getting better, rather than trying to hamstring the rest of the competition with father-son. Be careful what you wish for, Bradley. In 4 or 5 years' time, they could end up with 2 or 3 of their former players producing gun youngsters, and they might have to pay the farm to actually get them.
Yeah. Rewald's got a couple of boys. There's a few coming through, exactly. And what if Battle has a boy down the track? Do you reckon he wanted to go send him to St Kilda with the bake he got on the way at the door? Absolutely not, But anyway,
not even invited. Not even invited. They said stay home. Don't come.
It's petty.
Don't come. Don't even come. So they just burnt that bridge well and truly. I mean, it's business. it's commercial businesses, $100 million businesses these. So sometimes they're going to be a few tiers here and there, and it's not going to be all one way, you know. So from that point of view, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to ring up Reduce's Choice, a.k.a. Peter Dacos, and just see if he wants to be mated down there. And we'll set him up at stud down there at Moorabbin and see if we can produce a few boys for him. What do you think?
Exactly right.
What would be your standing price? What would be your starting price for him, Shorty? What would be his service fee?
Oh, there'd be a lot of zeros. There'd be a lot of zeros on the back end. I'll give you the tip.
Well done, young Nick too. I mean, that's a remarkable record, isn't it? You know, Peter won 2, Joshy won it last year, and Nick's won it this year. I mean, that's some sort of lineage and some sort of heritage, isn't it, for the Copeland Trophy? But well deserved, no doubt about that. And I'm still shaking my head, and I love Paddy Cripps, and well done to him on his second Brownlow. We said that, but God, if you said to Nick Dacos, oh, listen, by the way, you're going to the Brownlow tonight, you're going to get 38 votes. You're not going to win. You're going to run second and get beat by 7 points. So seriously.
Amazing. It is amazing how that's all progressed. Bradley, NRL Grand Final today. How do you see it being a run and one? It's going to be a cracking game. 2 amazing sides. Talk us through what your afternoon looks like. Sounds like a pretty social one.
Well, our technical spreads far and wide, as you know, and I've been a long-term friend of Matty Tripp's, and of course he has a large portion of the Melbourne Storm, so we're praying. But what a Panthers side this has been, Lochie. I mean, unbelievable. 5 grand finals, looking for 4 in a row. Cleary, he's going to be an immortal. We know that. But I'm just hoping that Munster and Pappenhausen and these sort of guys. I'm really disappointed the big fella's not in there. Shorty Solomon. That was unlucky, but he's not going to be playing. But they've just got to make sure they keep hold of the ball. You know, and that's what wins you NRL flags. And, it might be frustrating at times, but just have that little bit of active brilliance from Pappenhausen or Munster or the like, the Dally M medalist, Jerome. That sort of thing. They've got to try and negate Cleary. I mean, unfortunately, I know this sounds nasty, you've got to go after that shoulder. You just got to make sure, you've got to make sure every tackle's a crunch, and within the rules, but really test it out because, he took it away last year, and I was saying ironically to the boys on the Daily during the week, 5 minutes to go in the NRL Grand Final last year, Brisbane were in front. 5 minutes to go in the AFL Grand Final, Brisbane were in front. One bloke gets another chance and goes on and wins the flag. The other bloke gets the lemon and sauce. It's quite remarkable. So I'm going for the Storm. I'm praying for the Storm. I'm not investing on it, Shorty. If I invest, I'll invest on the Panthers and try and mock them. The old reverse mock like that's how it works, isn't it? So,
yes, you are a dinosaur, Brad.
Yeah, just interesting. I don't know if you've been watching the golf over there in Scotland, the Alfred Dunhill. You see Cameron John's caddy the other day, Shorty?
No, I missed it, Brad.
He had a Neil Danaher MND beanie on.
Oh, magnificent.
Gone global.
All around the world.
Fantastic.
The big freeze. I'll tell you what, you could probably come in good use up there, I would have thought, in those conditions as well. Subpolar at times. What about a Sunday save? You've got a couple of winners for us today, yes. Brad?
Oh, I reckon I'm pretty confident today, Shorty, Lochie. Now, Bendigo Race 1, number 7, Romani E Dodo Mum. Now, that is out of the Monty Python film. Go Home Romans, it means. Remember the Monty Python film? You wouldn't remember it, Lochie.
One of my favourites, Brad.
Yeah, that's it's going back a little while, anyway, but I do remember them.
Good luck to the caller on call on that one anyway. $2.20 will kick off there. I think it'll be winning for the Hayes boys. They're flying. Then we'll go up to Cairns. I'm a Cairns specialist, Lochie. Race 4, number 2, all-time legend at $2.90. Ex-Ledsy's Bridge Horse going beautifully up there. And we'll come home with Bendigo Race 8, number 5. Sure. 2 starts, 2 wins, resumes today. I think it'd be very hard to beat. That'll be $2. So race 1, number 7 at Bendigo, $2.20. Cairns Race 4, number 2, $2.90. Bendigo Race 8, number 5, $2. That's a lazy $12.76 there, Shorty. If we get that up, we'll have a little bit of something on the Clive Churchill medalist or something like that. One of those little, like they do on the Norm Smith.
I like it,
have a bit of a crack there.
Little interest there. Beautifully done, Bradley. And, of course, it's all been courtesy of the team at Retrovision. We also...
Group 1 Morts.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing a wonderful job,
Don't
Stevie.
Don't forget the nude nut.
Yep. And,
all right,
Bradley,
boys, you have a wonderful day.
Bradley,
and,
we can't let it finish without a shout-out.
It's nearly lunchtime here now.
Hey, don't forget our man as well, Frankie, because when it comes to those auctions on a Friday...
I got a Butler Bubbly off Frankie on Friday, off his Ross's Auctions online, and that's what he's got one every Friday. And I managed to get one just in case the Storm get the job done tonight, boys. I've got it there on ice, raring to go.
Crack that champagne bottle, Bradley. You have yourself a ripper Sunday with the NRL Grand Final. Thanks as always for your time here on the Aftermath. Enjoy your Sunday afternoon upcoming.
Thanks, Brad.
All the best, team. Cheers.
TAB Radio.
Atlantic Gem's about to get to the outside now. Coming out three wide is Soho Honey Rider. Coming off the back, Waterloo headed by Lion Queen. Lion Queen is drawn to the lead from the stablemate. Out three wide, running on is Soho Honey Rider. 29-3 the next quarter. To the outside, Madam Publisher gets out for McDonald. Let's go with a really good run, and Sugar Delight drove up behind them. Around the turn, here's Madam Publisher. Coming after the leader, Soho Honey Rider, who hit the front from Lion Queen, but Madam Publisher went whoosh on the outside, has dashed away from them. Soho Honey Rider battles on really well. Atlantic Gem will get up for second, absolutely flying, but Madam Publisher has won brilliantly from Atlantic Gem. Lion Queen thought on well and got third from Soho Honey Rider.
A magnificent call from our man Richie Bell there on Friday night, with Madam Publisher taking out the Group 1 Tab Touch WA Oaks, trained and driven by Stuart McDonald, who's been good enough to pick the phone up for us on this Sunday morning here on the Aftermath. Stu, congratulations. David Shortte and Lochie Taylor with you on this Sunday morning. 3 back the pegs, but you got the horse out there turning for home, and away you went. That must have been a beautiful feeling turning for home when you got out.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Yeah, it certainly was a good feeling. I was travelling very, very well, and the ones, some of the ones to beat had done a little bit of work, and I just knew I had to get myself into the clear. And once she got out there, she won easy in the end.
Stu, good morning to you, and congratulations on the fantastic win on Friday night. Obviously, your first Group 1 as a trainer. Going into the race on Friday night, what type of condition was she in, and were you always confident of a forward showing if you got those splits late like you did?
Yeah, I certainly was. I thought she was. She just hit the spot. In the last week, I had a bit of a delay with her when I started racing her this time in. So her first couple of starts probably hadn't looked as impressive as they'd been previously. She just had a bit of a virus when I first started. Started to go hobbler, so I got the later week, and she just wasn't quite fit enough those first couple of runs, and she didn't look as good. But she went through the Dainties Daughter well and got held up, and then her work really improved after that. And I thought she was bang on for the Oaks, and she just needed that bit of luck, and when it comes, she proved me right, and she took advantage of it.
Really swished away from them over the last little bit. Just talk us through how you were feeling within the run, Stu, because they did go particularly hard up front. Waterloo had the pressure applied, and sometimes when you're in that 3 back the pegs scenario and they have put pressure on up front, they can find their way back into your lap. But I thought you were incredibly composed and patient. You really did just bide your time, and when that little opening appeared there, turning for home, you were able to get the horse out, and it was almost instantaneous. Madam Publisher was there and ready to respond for you.
Yeah, I was obviously pretty happy that there was a bit of a lead time, and I thought maybe I was a little bit too close to it when I was chasing through, but she managed to handle that part well. And credit to the horse, I was able to move Honey Rider out 3 wide and get myself into the 1 wide, the 600, and then get onto the back of Soho Honey Rider by pushing Soho Best Berlin, and that was a hard push, and that was just all credit to the horse for being able to do it, because the horse on the outside really was trying to hold me down, and she wasn't taking no for an answer, and she stayed charging on the bit and put herself through the gap, and was able to like I said get through it, and once she got into the clear, there was no looking back.
Stu, what's next for Madam Publisher? How did she come through the run on Friday night?
Yeah, she seems okay. She probably was a little bit flat Saturday morning, first time over 2,500, and she obviously did some work and early to chase through, and then she's got out and sprinted pretty hard, and I can imagine it did take a bit of an effect. The first time, 3-year-old filly, she's only had that was only her 11th start, but I give her a couple more days off and see if I want to continue working her and go for the Derby. But she'll let me know. I don't want to hurt her by racing the boys if I don't think she's up to it, because she's probably got a decent future ahead of her as a mare. She should earn some really good money. especially if I think that's actually her better role, as being a sniper rather than being the dominant horse that she has been in a lot of her races, where she's been really short price favourite, and she's led a lot of them, but sometimes she's had to breeze, and it's not ideal all the time. So I definitely think against the better horses, and when she gets older, she will be a nice mare. So she'll let me know if she's going to be able to go in that Derby or not, and I just don't want to hurt the horse if I don't think she's ready.
All right, we'll follow up from there. Stu, how many other horses they're working with at the moment?
I haven't got any in at the moment, but I do have two ready to come back into work. So, I was just waiting for the Oaks to get over, and I was focusing fully on her. And once the Oaks is over, I had two ready to come back in. So I'll either start them this Monday or next Monday.
Just a Group 1 winner in the stable, and that's it. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. First starter in a Group 1 and gets the win, so 100% strike rate. Maybe I won't start another one.
Easy caper, Stewie. Very easy caper. You're making it look easy anyway, mate. Congratulations to you. Well done on the win with Madam Publisher there in the Group 1 Oaks on Friday night. Continued success to you.
Thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated.
Stuart McDonald, fresh off Group 1 success on a Friday night there at Gloucester Park. Speaking of Group 1 success, we're about to catch up with Joe Pride.
Kovalika creeping up on the fence, and Tom Kitten's wide. Right behind him is the favourite, Chaya Wolf, pulling to the outside. Major Bill comes up the rise in front from Royal Patronage, Kintyre, then Hardie Glamour. Further back to My Oberon. Kovalika's looking for a gap. Got shut out there. Racing to a narrow lead as Royal Patronage. Now the favourite's coming. Chaya Wolf right down the outside. Tom Kitten tries to go with him, but Chaya Wolf with the wind in his sails draws away for a big win in the Epsom, beating Tom Kitten. Photo third, Royal Patronage and Kovalika, followed by Hardie Glamour.
Yeah, magnificent performance from Chaya Wolf, and a great call from Darren Flindell as well. He got right around Chaya Wolf, right up the outside, and it swooped to success there in the Group 1 Epsom yesterday. This man's no stranger to Group 1 success. He's one of the best in the business. Joe Pride, he joins us this morning on the Aftermath. Welcome to you, Joe. David Shortte and Lochie Taylor with you. Congratulations. This was a stunning win from Chaya Wolf.
Yes, it was fantastic. So, part owned in the West too, this horse. So, big thrill for all the team involved.
Congratulations, Joe, on what was just a devastating victory. I know you have so much time for this horse, but the dominance in which he won and the way he was just able to streak clear that final 100 metres, did that even exceed your expectations of the horse?
Oh, look, he's promised to do that for a while, and obviously ran placings in a Roseville Guineas and an AJC Derby, but this preparation's been a lot sharper, and that was sort of him announcing himself on the big stage, and I think everybody knows now what he's capable of doing, and there's plenty more to come. He's a slow maturing horse who's slowly starting to realise his potential, and that's an exciting prospect in itself.
Joe, I'm fascinated by the campaign with this horse. He started at 2,000 metres prior to yesterday's run in the Epsom at the mile. What did those 2 or 3 look like for him in between those two races?
It was just a matter of just giving him a couple of nice gallops and just making sure that he'd freshened up nicely. He's got a little bit of that speed back into his legs, and I don't think it's a big deal going from 2,000 to a mile. I think it's been done plenty of times before.
Yep.
I think horses transition pretty well to that. It's obviously a drop of 400 metres, but if you couldn't drop back from a 1,600 to 1,200 that successfully, it would be very difficult to do. But I think particularly the Randwick Mile, it's a very genuine, a track and distance that often suits horses that can run a strong 2,000 metres. And as I say, history tells you it's not too hard for horses to do, but they don't know do it as well as what he did yesterday.
That was your 4th big mile winner at Randwick, so clearly you know the recipe for success.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I'd like a few more of them yet. And there's a new Randwick Mile on the cards now with the King Charles as they've made it. The old George Main, but it's worth a lot of money, and it would be just as good, if not better, than an Epsom win. But we'll see. It's most likely his next start.
How did the horse come through the run, and what are the options for him? Obviously, the King George, as you've just outlined, but longer term, what's on the horizons for this horse?
Yeah, look, he's a very tough horse, and he handles racing really well. I'm keen because he's gonna do some of his racing, no doubt, in the future in Melbourne, to get him down to Melbourne for a start or two. Yeah. But there'll be a time and a place for that. It might be the McKinnon, this preparation. Probably a year too soon for a Cox Plate for him. But it's the race I sort of most want to win as a trainer. So I'd love to think that I've finally found the horse that could do that for me. But that doesn't mean to say, as I said, that you'd be attempting it this year. I'm still paid up for it, but let's just... I imagine we're going to King Charles next, and then we'll make some decisions after that.
All right, so the King Charles and potentially the McKinnon, but long-term Cox Plate. The way that this horse sustained the run yesterday, I think, was the most impressive part of the win, Joe. You were up against good quality opposition. There were some really nice horses in that Epsom there yesterday, and Chelwolf coming from a long way back. Just tell us, what were you thinking within the run? The horse was a fair way back, but Chad just knew what he had underneath, peeled to the outside. And as we heard in the call with Darren Flindell, you could see a fair way from home that this horse had a head of steam up and was going to take a whole lot of stopping. What were you thinking, and how were you feeling within the run?
Yeah, I hadn't had a great day to date at that point. Pretty unlucky sort of Premier Stakes, and I'm watching it just thinking, oh, come on, just give us a little bit of luck here. And he had Lock Eagle on his outside, and he wasn't giving him a lot of room. I think it was Jay Ford on him, wasn't giving him a lot of room to manoeuvre. But the second he dropped him off, I started to get pretty excited because I know what he's capable of doing. And then when he surged, I don't know, it just felt like he was just going to win easily, and he did. Might be easy to say now, I suppose, but it was a pretty easy watch up the straight because he was just the one horse with momentum and full head of steam. So.
Indeed. The Premier, we'll briefly touch on it. Chelwolf's a better story to be chatting about, more upbeat, but we must touch on it. Marzu, runner-up beaten, a narrow margin, and think about it, just the way the race panned out, never really got a look at them. Your thoughts on both of those runners?
Yeah, it was just messy. It was a race I anticipated being fast run. It wasn't. I don't want to throw Jason under the bus, call it on think about it, but it just didn't pan out for him at all. It was ugly. Sometimes those things are circumstantial rather than, based on what a jockey was actually able to do on the day. I believe that was the case yesterday. He ran home with lightning sectionals, but the race was over halfway through. To think about it, Marsley was great again. Really, really good honest run. He's put in two good performances this time round. He looks to be knocking on the door, and I thought the other good run in the race was Coal Crush. I thought he was terrific. I was really happy with him. He's on track to have another crack at the Hunter in November.
So, Joe, where are you at with Everest negotiations for both Marzu and Think About It?
Private Eye as well, and something should be announced either in the next day or so. But I'm not actually at liberty to say so.
Fair enough. But Private Eye, the latest, the horse is obviously really well firing and ready to get deeper into the preparation.
Yep. He's come back well. He's had a couple of runs back. So it's a big day for the stable, Everest Day. We're going to have a heap of runners, both in the Everest and Sydney Stakes, the King Charles, and a couple of runners in the Mares race, the Angst. So, very exciting. We'll be extremely busy and looking forward to it.
How's the build-up been towards this year's Everest, Joe? I know from over here in the West, it's the race we're just always talking about from afar. How's it been there on the ground in Sydney?
Yeah, look, a tougher one for me personally because we haven't been able to secure spots for the horses. We had two locked away at this point last year, but we haven't been able to secure the spot. So, a little bit of pressure there, but it's I tell you, when you're trying to get your horses into the Everest, you've got some good horses. So I haven't got too much to complain about there, guys. Got to be honest. But there's a level of pressure and stress attached to that, but I've got to say it's a good kind of pressure rather than worrying about going down to Kembla for a couple of runners and a maid. So.
That's the truth. I heard a great quote this week. Pressure is a privilege, and it's a great quote. Yeah. I think it's a great quote. You only have pressure if you've got good animals giving you good opportunities, and you're getting the best out of them. Joe, Lekvart's also one of my favourites. When are we likely to see her stepping out again?
Yep, Everest Day. So she'll run in the Angst, which is the mare's race. Yeah,
excellent.
She's a lovely mare, really good mare, and she's come up well this prep.
Very nice. Well, looking forward to seeing her going around once again. And there's a meeting on Monday, public holiday over there. Iconic Treasure goes around for the stable. Looks to be in pretty good nick. Will it be hard to beat on Monday?
More than likely saved for Wednesday. So, yeah, good chance he won't run tomorrow.
All right, we'll keep our eyes peeled for Wednesday. Joe, congratulations. Absolutely superb there, Chell Wolf. Yesterday it was a stunning win. Continued success to yourself and your stable. Thanks for your time this morning.
No problems at all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Joe
Pride with us this morning here on The Aftermath. Wonderful trainer, great guy, and, great spot to be in. Obviously frustrating to not be able to lock up. You got 3 potentials for an Everest Lochie. Most stables would be delighted to have one that's knocking on the door, but to have 3 there that they're negotiating with and working hard for certainly shows you the job that he's doing with his team.
Exactly right. And I think the general punting public and even us in the media sometimes forget that just having runners in the Everest is so valuable for trainers, because there is no such thing as a split up of the prize money for that trainer's 10%. So if you have 3 runners in an Everest, that is an enormous payday. Joe Pride would be licking his lips, and I can understand the frustration in him to not have those slots locked up, because regardless of how the horses run, it is an enormous payday for some of these jockeys and trainers.
Huge, isn't it? The jocks as well and the trainers. It's enormous. It's been a bucket list item, Lock, and I'm heading over. It's my birthday a day or 2 beforehand, and birthday prezzies to go over and have a look at the Everest this year. It's a race day I've really wanted to get along to. The man that we're going to be speaking to in a few moments could have a runner in the $1 million chase. So Friday night would be $1 million chase, Wentworth Park, potentially cheering on a sandgroper, and then on to Everest Day on the Saturday. As a absolute crazy racing lover, I doubt I could put together a better itinerary than that. But we'll catch up with Paul Stuart right after this break. You're tuned into The Aftermath on TAB Radio on this Sunday morning with Lochie Taylor and David Shortte.
Racing and sport from different angles. You are listening to The Aftermath on TAB Radio Racing and Sport.
They're racing now. Bezecchi jumped brilliantly from box 4, and the West Aussie straight to the lead, and he sprints away by 2 to Sanvi second. Getting up on the inside, Can You Love Me going to third, checking off heels Mackinaw Peach. They're followed then by Flashes Joe out the back, Flash Boom Bang and 8 waiting, but look at this, Bezecchi off the back, he's opened up a massive lead on Can You Love Me. They're followed by Sanvi. Bezecchi a minute in front, a statement made by the Western Australian. Bezecchi by 15 on Sanvi second, Can You Love Me third, then Flashes Joe. Next home was well back, Flashes Joe 8 waiting, and Flash Boom Bang. Oh my goodness, 29.13.
Oh my goodness indeed, 29.13 if you do not mind, punters. That's the second fastest time ever at Wentworth Park. Paul Stewart's had some very nice dogs, including the all-time great Hall of Famer Miata, but very few dogs have ever gone as quick as this anywhere on the planet, and he's been good enough to join us on this Sunday morning on The Aftermath. Welcome to you, Paul. David Shortte and Lochie Taylor with you. Congratulations. Viewing from Mandurah there last night, you must have been stoked with what you saw from your dog, Bezecchi.
Yeah, morning, guys. Yeah, it was good. I quickly got the dog kennelled for racing last night, went upstairs, grabbed a beer and sat down and parked up and watched that. So, yeah, no, it's funny, you get sort of nervous watching dogs from afar and not when you're at home, but, at the track. But, yeah, he come out beautifully last night, got the job done and, yeah, sort of shocked us all with the time, I guess.
A stunning performance. He now comes right into contention. Semi-finals next week of the $1 million chase. If you can win there, you front up for $1 million prize check the week after. Richest race in greyhound racing. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to be involved in these sorts of races. You're no stranger to them. Last night, though, this dog really came out. It's not been the dog's strength. We're well aware of how strong the dog can be and how clever it can be navigating through fields, but seeing it step like it did last night is really encouraging, particularly considering Wentworth Park can be a track and a set of boxes that some dogs can struggle with, but he seemed to really like it.
Yeah, exactly right. Winning Park, like you said, it's one of those tracks where dogs either love it or hate it. It's a lot different to most tracks. It's concrete jungle. There's big grandstands and lights going everywhere, and it's got the old rails, so it's got the noisy lure. So dogs can either make or break them there. They can either love the joint or, just miss the kick. And, sort of he's had a couple of trials there and sort of went, as he probably normally does out of the boxes, just a low 550s, high 490s. And I think last night he stepped. He had plenty of room. He had a scratching in 3 and a slow beginner in 5. So he had enough room there to drive a truck through. But he took advantage of that, came out nice under the lids. And then, once he got clear, it was basically times and margins. And, I was surprised with the time. I thought he may run, around the 29, 3 or 4 mark. But, he sort of went past those expectations for sure.
Paul, it must give you some confidence moving forward towards the $1 million chase, knowing that you have a versatile dog. Obviously, if he steps a touch slower than he did last night, he can still go to plan B or C and still be more than competitive in such a big feature race.
Yeah, 100%. You actually nailed it perfectly. He's a dog that I didn't expect him to lead and win. You're more relying on the fact that he's such a good race dog, and that's half the reason I said it, is because he's just sense. And when he parks one of those tracks where if you can navigate yourself in the field, a lot goes wrong on them first corners. But if you've got the racecraft about you can make up for it. And obviously we've seen him last night spear on the arm, but I'd have no problems with him if he's coming through the field. He's going to be super strong, and that's generally his racing pattern. So it's always good when you can have when things can go against you, you can still try and you can still win.
Incredibly hard chaser. That's the best trait that the dog has, no doubt about that. And of course, those that missed it, we spoke to you a couple of weeks ago, and this is the dog that unfortunately there were a few issues when it trialled. It ran 700 instead of 500, ran into the catching pen gate. There were some issues there. This dog had a fair bit going against it. There was a question mark as to whether it would even go around there last night. So it's fair to say that it hasn't been a smooth sail. It hasn't been straight up and down, but the dogs coped with it beautifully and then produced a run like this.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, what I spoke to you last 2 Sundays ago, I think it was. Yeah, he trialled on the Saturday night in between, as Stuart's trial, and they didn't shut the catching pen gate, and he went an extra 200 metres further and cannoned into the lure once they slowed it down the back straight, and cut his feet. And there's a bit of a worry. So, originally I had him planned to race there last Saturday, but we scrapped that idea because I just sort of didn't really want to. I was lucky enough if it was happened to a dog, it was to be happened to a dog like him, because he's so strong, and he come through that run not a problem, which was lucky. And then so instead of racing, he just went in there for just a short trial on Monday night, and that just gave him another look out of them boxes, which was pretty ideal. And then obviously he was nice and fresh for last night, and come out running. So it's one of those things. When it happened the first time, I was like, oh well, this is confetti basically. We're just there for a few looks and come back home. But he's overcome that and gone super.
Paul, with that in mind, does the dog still have improvement in him between now and the $1 million chase?
Look, I'd say no. I mean, you're battling to run anywhere near them times as a rule. And for him to sort of step clean and do what he did, he'll probably feel it this morning, I'd say. But I mean, he doesn't have to get any fitter. He doesn't have to get any quicker. He's just got to be able to navigate his field. I mean, to be fair, last night he had everything go in his favour. He had bacon in 3 and a whitey and slow beginner in 5. So it was basically like a solo trial. So next week's going to be a different kettle of fish. There's going to be pace galore, and all weight dogs are going to be quick. So, we'll just take it as a nice spectacle run. But, the hard run's coming up in the next week or so.
Well, hopefully there's 2 more big dubs in front for this dog. Win next week, and then the $1 million check, send it straight to P. Stuart. Like the sound of it. Thank you so much for your time this morning here on the Aftermath. Paul, we'll all be getting right around Bezecchi there in the $1 million chase next Saturday night.
No worries, guys. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Paul.
There we have it, Paul Stuart. That brings to a close my time this morning on the Aftermath. Lochie Taylor, you've been outstanding. And to everybody tuned in, thank you so much for your company on this Sunday morning. Matty French about to join Lochie for the final hour for Racing Rewind. Have a ripper Sunday, punters.
Thank you, Shorty.